the Scottish Family Party, which promotes marriage as the best foundation for family life. It's calling for council tax discounts for families with children or elderly relatives living at home. It has candidates standing on regional lists. Our political correspondent Kirsten Campbell reports.
The Scottish Family Party is no stranger to controversy. It's projected images on the Scottish Parliament and even abortion clinics to get its message across. The party doesn't support fertility treatment for same-sex couples, and its leader, a former maths teacher, was accused of making offensive and discriminatory comments about that, though the General Teaching Council for Scotland didn't uphold the complaints.
If you sit and listen to the existing politicians and think, they just don't say what I believe. They're not pro-family, they're not pro-marriage, they're not pro-life. They don't understand the problems with education. They're not for freedom of speech in any meaningful sense. Then we're the party to fill that gap and to represent you in the Scottish Parliament.
The party's policies include council tax cuts for families with children or elderly relatives at home. It argues punishing children is necessary and effective, and it supports exams and thinks there should be a certificate in good manners and punctuality.
The curriculum for excellence is terrible. It needs to be scrapped. It's vague and woolly. It's not focused on knowledge and understanding. Proper academic rigour is just going out of the window with the curriculum for excellence.
Now, it's a very distinctive manifesto, which is socially conservative.
The Scottish Family Party is neutral on independence, though it doesn't support holding a referendum in the next Parliament. It's calling for the swift removal of coronavirus restrictions, arguing instead that people should be trusted to make their own judgments. Kirsten Campbell, reporting Scotland.
Well, how was that then? That was our little slot on BBC News. Now, when the BBC lady came to interview me, I was actually absolutely shocked by the interview. I mean, she treated me like a fellow member of the human race. I'm not sure I've had that from the BBC before. She had actually looked into our policies and seemed to be genuinely trying to understand what the Scottish Family Party is all about. And the questions were designed to give me the opportunity to discuss our policies, to present our policies, instead of the usual catch-you-out hostile questioning. So that was utterly miraculous. The introduction to the little slot spoke about our family-friendly policies. The fact that we see marriage as the best foundation for family life. Absolutely great. That is actually the heart of our policies. Okay, they said we've got candidates on the list. We've also got constituency candidates, but okay, fair enough. Now, it then came to saying that we don't support fertility treatment for same-sex couples. That is true. Obviously, we would prefer that to be presented with the positive line that we think that children being brought up by a natural mother and father is the ideal, because children's well-being is our priority. But still, what they said is actually our policy. The way it's presented, it might sound as if we're somehow anti-same-sex parents, maybe for the reason we're sort of anti-same-sex relationships. That's what some people might infer. But I now have the opportunity to prove to you that that isn't actually our motivation, because the SNP has given us the proof, the opportunity to present the proof. The SNP has recently announced a new policy to tackle population decline. And their solution to population decline is to provide fertility treatment for single women. Now, they're not just talking, just here and there where there might be a single woman who wants that. This is like a mass production policy to tackle population decline. And we oppose that policy for the same reason. Deliberately creating fatherless children is wrong. So it's not to do with so-called homophobia, it's to do with what's best for children. So creating fatherless children is not good for the children, it's not good for wider society. Right, on they went, looking at some of our policies. Punishing children is necessary and effective. That is a quotation from our manifesto. It sounds a bit odd when it's presented out of the blue though, doesn't it? Let me read the actual policy and you'll see how different it sounds in that. Teachers should never feel that pupils are out of control. Education Scotland's moves to remove punishment from schools, replacing them with restorative processes, is misguided, based on an over-optimistic view of human nature. Boys in particular tend to need clear boundaries and defined consequences and flourish when these are provided. As behaviour problems reach crisis point in many schools, staff must be listened to instead of idealistic schemes being imposed from above. Teachers are leaving the profession in the face of routine defiance and pupils' learning is being disrupted by unchecked bad behaviour. We believe that punishing children is necessary, fair, justified and effective. Now, I think the vast majority of the population would agree with our view that the idea of abolishing punishments in schools is not a good idea, and it's going to lead to a breakdown in discipline. But when it's presented just as that fragment that they presented, it maybe sounds a bit odd. Now, a lot of people, when they hear the word punishment, they reply by saying, "Oh, do you mean bringing back the cane or the strap or something?" Well, of course not. I mean, what can you do if people misinterpret what you say like that? I mean, it's difficult to know what you can do about that. But anyway, that's not what we mean. It says we support exams. Again, a bit more context needed. We support them in the midst of an educational system that is heading towards scrapping them, because they'd rather teachers made the results up, because that closes the so-called attainment gap. An exam in good manners. Now, what springs to mind when you hear about an exam in good manners? Multiple choice question. What do you say when someone passes the salt? Thank you. Or you imagine that you go into this sort of prepared meal table and have someone observing you ticking boxes to see if you pass the exam in good manners. Well, obviously not. But if you read the policy, I will read the policy for you. A national certification in character qualities, such as good manners, punctuality, personal presentation, trustworthiness and industriousness, should be available to all pupils before they leave school. This will be rigorously assessed against objective criteria over a period of several weeks. This could help pupils focus on these vital qualities and thereby prepare themselves for successful employment. It could also assist schools in maintaining high standards. That sounds quite reasonable, doesn't it, when you hear it in the context of the full explanation. When they finished by outlining our policies on Scottish independence and coronavirus, and they got those absolutely spot on. I thought they came over very well. I suppose the lesson there is our policy on those things is only about 2 lines long, so they virtually read the whole policy. So someone might say, if you made your other policies all that short, then there's no way they can misrepresent them, because if it's only a sentence, you can't do much more than just reading it. But we can't do that. We've got far too many great ideas to condense into just a few sound bites. We've got a serious, wide-ranging policy platform, and that's the way it's going to stay. So basically, the BBC's treatment here was fair, which we're absolutely shocked by. But on the other hand, when you appear in the media, you don't get to write the script. That's the way it is, and that's fine. Now, the other politicians from the mainstream parties, if you ever wonder why they sound so boring and bland, part of the reason is that they're really keen to avoid misrepresentation in the media. So if they keep what they say really simple and contentless, then that's less likely to happen. Right, going back to the BBC. Has it redeemed itself? No. No, I mean, it's still chronically biased towards its own progressive, secular, liberal perspectives. So our policy remains to scrap the licence fee and to make it a BBC fee instead. So if you want to watch BBC, you pay for it. If you don't want to watch BBC, you don't pay for it, but you can watch anything else on television that you like. Thanks for watching.